What's up, guys? Luke here from Luke's Points and Miles, and I wasn't going to upload while I was on vacation. By the way, I'm coming to you from on location at the Waldorf Cavalieri in Rome, Italy, and I wanted to take the whole week off, but I just got back from a really marginal tour, so I'm hot, sweaty. I need a shower, but I just found out some really bad news about Capital One, and I'm absolutely sure you have already heard the news, but I wanted to make a video right now while this is kind of fresh and emotional in me, and I wanted to give you my initial thoughts on the latest devaluation of the Capital One Venture X. If you guys are not familiar, Capital One is completely devaluing the lounge access in the Venture X, and I'll try to quickly go over it. Even though I'm sure you guys understand the details by now, and I do have it written down because it's not really straightforward, and it's a little bit difficult to understand. But we all know the Capital One Venture X has a $395 annual fee. That is not changing. So a lot of folks are going to argue that the value prop might not have changed significantly, but we'll talk about that once I give you my initial thoughts on this whole deal. But right now, if you hold the Capital One Venture X, you get lounge access to Priority Pass with unlimited number of guests. That's not really the huge issue. You also get lounge access to Capital One lounges with 2 free guests. Now, this has always been the superpower of the Venture X. You've always gotten 4 authorized users for free who also had the same lounge access. Now, that has always been the selling point of the Venture X card. That in its value prop relative to annual fee. But that part's not changing, right? So what is changing? Well, to get it right, I want to make sure I wrote some of it down. But starting February 1st, 2026, Capital One Venture X holders will no longer be able to get any guests in Priority Pass lounges. Most of us, I'm thinking, we have more than one Priority Pass, or we don't visit Priority Pass lounges that much, so that really wouldn't really give us a crazy reaction to this whole thing. But those who hold the Venture X after February 1st will no longer get any free guests in the Capital One lounges. That's pretty devastating, but it gets worse. Your authorized users no longer have access to the Capital One lounges. That is a game changer, guys, and that is in my opinion, a huge deal. But it gets worse. You can grant your authorized users access to the Capital One lounge by paying a $125 fee, and they'll be able to get in, but still no guests, no free guests. And another stipulation is, if you spend $75,000 on your Capital One Venture X, you will then be able to get 2 free guests entered into the lounge, the Capital One lounge, with yourself when you visit them. Now, a lot of folks are going to say there's no way anybody's spending $75,000 on that card, but I don't agree with that, because I have spent $75,000 on venture cards way back in the day when that was the only card I used. But this is a pretty big deal, and I want to talk about how I feel about it, at least initially. So the first thing I want to say is, guys, listen, this does not go into effect until February 1st of next year. So as of right now, the Venture X card is still a value play. $395 annual fee, $300 travel credit, 10,000 bonus miles each year. Right now, this card is still really good. Most of us consider the lounge access just pure profit, just what made the card excellent. Now, here's my first thought. As I said, it doesn't take an effect right now, so there's no reason to make a decision on it or to really get too emotionally involved in it. The Venture X is not my primary lounge access card, and if I'm honest, the last 2 times I've passed through airports that had a Capital One lounge, I didn't even have time to stop there. So how often do I actually visit Capital One lounges? Not very often. That said, I've always been a proponent of the Capital One Venture X. I've always talked about how it is a great complementary setup to your primary setup. Is that still true? Well, just my initial thoughts, I don't know if it is. I keep reading online where people say it's still a great value prop because Capital One pays you $5 a year to hold it. Well, here's the thing. I don't need to use it for $5 or a break even annual fee. I don't need to keep it in my setup. Now, my first emotional thought about this whole thing wasn't as bad as most people. I didn't say, hey, that's canceled no matter what. I said the devaluation is not bad enough to cancel, but what is left over from the card after February 1st might not be worth keeping the card. So I don't know how you figure what to do with that. Is it a card I'm going to be putting spend on? I don't think so. The main positive with this card was it was a premium travel card that also doubled as a catch-all. It's really good in that way. Without the lounge access, for a lot of people, I don't think this can be considered a premium travel card in any way, shape, or form anymore. If you're a solo traveler, I think things just got a lot better. If you're a solo traveler, you can probably at least want the overcrowding to be less in lounges, and nothing really changes for you. If you're someone like me where I always have, well, if you're someone like me where I travel mostly with my wife and son, and secondarily with my wife or son, I very rarely travel by myself. And for as much as I do travel by myself, I don't think having a card just for that lounge access would even be a consideration. So I am curious of your thoughts. Does this completely destroy the Capital One Venture X for you? Now remember, the annual fee didn't go up. One of the main perks didn't go away. You're still going to have lounge access. Now, did it change for the worse? I think it changed horribly for the worst. Now, here's another aspect of this whole thing. In my opinion, and in my situation, the card that really loses out in this whole deal is the Saver card. In my opinion, the Saver card was a money, no annual fee card when combined with the Capital One Duo. With one part of that Capital One Duo really being devalued and being probably not worth keeping for me, the Capital One Saver card is pretty much out the window as well. And those two things combined make Capital One obsolete as an ecosystem. So as someone who had just did a video about how my end game included the Venture X and the Chase Sapphire Reserve, that really throws a monkey wrench in my plans because the Capital One Venture X is no longer a lounge access for how I travel. Is it a good enough card to keep in my wallet despite that? I don't know. My surface thoughts are I don't think so. And usually when one of these things happens is a lot of people get really sad, really negative, really upset. I almost see this as a blessing because Capital One just made a really difficult decision for me. Now I think I'm going to have to start making some changes, or maybe my changes are going to be coming faster. Maybe I move to a mostly cash back setup a lot quicker now. Or maybe this just really forces me to hold on to my American Express relationship. And American Express is at the point where I just can't quit them. They are too good. They benefit me too much. And it's kind of a love-hate relationship, but it's a strong, strong relationship. So what do you guys think? Put in the comments. I really didn't want to do a video right now, but I thought this news was way too big to keep quiet, and just kind of wanted an outlet to get some of these feelings out. Tell me what you guys think of this major, major devaluation, and if you are one of those Capital One haters, congratulations, you got what you wanted. And if you are one of these Venture X lovers like myself, how hard does this hit you? And does this force you to make some changes for your future setup? Anyway, guys, if you have stayed all the way to the end, thank you. I appreciate every single one of you.